Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Rule 34 podcast. I'm your host, Jack, joined by my fellow guest,
Mr. Solis.
All right, so pretty, pretty quick, mainly due to the scheduling that WWE does their pay-per-views last week, covering in your house. And as we discussed, we would see if we would bother discussing the show. We're here to discuss it, but first off, how are you, sir?
I'm fine. I couldn't be more excited, Jack, with the conversation we had last week about once and for all putting our foot down. Were we going to sit together and talk about this show again, or have we been done dirty as fans for too long? I think, I'm down, Mr. Jack. I'm happy to move this show in any direction you want. Nevertheless, I'm excited to always hang out with you for a spell.
Same here, sir. And, as I let Mr. Solis know yesterday, it was almost as if fate was trying to intervene, as when the show came around, anytime I tried to load it up, the show wouldn't load. So I was thinking, I'm probably not going to be able to catch the show, or I'll have to wait to catch the replay in order to watch it. And I'll get into the replay experience later on, but that was definitely a discussion. Still kind of waiting to see, as the main thing I brought up to Mr. Solis before this was that the main thing that a lot of wrestling fans are looking forward to is the return of the fans. Getting fans back not only at the weekly shows but the pay-per-view events. And as I mentioned, WWE right now, a lot of people can describe it as they're treading water. It seems like they're holding back a lot. And, despite that, they've put on some pretty decent pay-per-view shows, but for the most part, it's kind of been like this thing of just, okay, well, this is all filler until we can get the fans back. And so,
yeah.
I guess...
You and I are both familiar with, shows that were, holding patterns, or just, we're just waiting for the pay-per-view, right? Imagine that happening over a season, happening for months, and it's like, wow, this is, we gotta, at some point, we gotta end this, right? And I guess, that was evident in the announcement at the beginning of Hell in a Cell, when the announcers were quick and excited to say that this was going to be the last pay-per-view to emanate from the Thunderdome.
Mm-hmm. And so, I think, again, giving the benefit of the doubt, allowing them to hold such shows with fans, and seeing if that truly brings change, and hopefully long-term change, not just the short-term of, the first few shows with fans back are great, and they're showing signs of being great with a lot of their choices and booking, but then it slowly falls off a cliff because they get complacent again.
One thing that the WWE has not been as transparent about as other companies is also the rates of positive COVID cases amongst its roster. I hope these guys, like they all say in the promo in between matches, that they're gonna get vaccinated, right? You've seen Stephanie McMahon, Balor, and Alexa Bliss saying, get your shot, Rey Mysterio, get your shot. And I certainly hope that's the case for all of them wrestlers, because what we've seen over the last year is the WWE trying to make do with what they have, and seeing repeat matches of the same people over and over again, trying to mask the fact that several of their members are home isolated.
Yeah, and in the past year, we've even seen so many cards change due to, positive COVID tests and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that you bring that up, because that's definitely something that I picked up with the opening package. The opening package talking about all the matches, but at the very end, they show this little part where it's almost winding back the footage, and they show stuff from WrestleMania and WrestleMania Backlash. And I kind of got a kick out of it, because I was just they're kind of showing themselves how they've been having to run these same matchups for months at a time because of how small their roster is due to not only because of COVID, but as we mentioned in last episode, a lot of the cuts that have happened.
Now that you mention it, I wonder, one, I think I'm doing this math really quickly. I think there was only, Jack, one match that featured two competitors that have never fought each other before. Literally, everyone else has done this once, if not in the last 60 days.
Yeah, and not only that, they've done it more than once on probably more than one pay-per-view already.
Mm-hmm. We would have had two, except one of those matches got moved to SmackDown for inexplicable reasons.
Yeah.
Did you watch the Hell in a Cell match with Roman Reigns and Rey Mysterio?
I did not get a chance to, but I saw highlights of it. And
I saw highlights as well. I hope they did that because of the recent report that Reigns refuses to be anywhere but first or last. I hope this is him throwing his weight around because I think it's incredible.
And so, as you know, Raw on the East Coast usually starts before it does here on the West. And so it's about an hour in, and so there's already stuff that's happened. I guess you could say USA Network got jealous of Fox getting a Hell in a Cell match because apparently tonight Xavier Woods and Bobby Lashley are fighting in a Hell in a Cell match.
Stop it! Really?
Yeah, I had
with
just
no
gotten out the
build-up.
shower.
With no build-up at all. Off the cuff. The thing's already up there. Don't take it down. We'll use it tomorrow. Incredible. Xavier Woods gets a Hell in a Cell match with the WWE Champion. Good for him.
Yeah.
I liked him. I'm sorry to hear he died. And you know what? I hope it's as, because I thought that Rey Mysterio match was going to be like a squash. I thought, it was going to not even start. I thought they were going to tease it and then break his leg before it starts. But they had like a bona fide match. I hope they do the same tonight.
Yeah.
But how funny. USA is like, what about our match?
But so, first match on the card, Bayley versus Bianca Belair for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Before the match, it caught my eye. I had recently seen reports that WWE, because they've been creating new stages for both SmackDown and Raw for their upcoming tour, I saw that there was like reports that they were going to plan to use augmented reality with a lot of the different entrances, and I saw it here with Bianca's entrance, where when she was making her entrance in the ring, you could see like the lipstick prints flashing through, and so I guess that's them kind of getting used to it now, so that they don't make as many mistakes, because as we mentioned, they're trying to go all out for when fans return.
I see. So you mean you caught like augmented reality things that would be evident to people in the arena?
Yeah.
I know what you mean now, like stuff with lasers and lights. I think I saw the lipstick on the ground too.
Yeah. But so, this match, I think, was announced to SmackDown before this event, so literally 2 days before.
Ago. And the announcer said as much, saying, one of the women or both women have been making a plan for the last 48 hours. You're like, geez Louise, did they really do that? Did they only just make this Hell in a Cell 2 days ago?
Yeah. And another interesting call, I don't think they've mentioned it specifically, but this is the first Hell in a Cell match to feature a non-horsewoman. Bianca's the first woman to get a Hell in a Cell match that wasn't either Charlotte, Bayley, Becky, or Sasha.
Wow! That took some math. I thought, what? Sure. Oh, that's awesome.
So, what did you think of the match?
And right after I said it, that's awesome. It didn't have to be Hell in a Cell at all. It fell short of a criticism that you made in October, that really what we saw was an Extreme Rules match in a cage.
Yeah, I felt similar. I put that it was very similar to Sasha Bayley, where it almost didn't need the cell at this point.
Sasha Bayley needed the cell, and they worked so well for me because, we're building off of a longer relationship, right? A longer history. That it was one of my favorite matches of last year. And I was reminded of that when Bayley entered the ring. I thought, oh damn, here she is, one half of one of my greatest matches of last year, and it didn't really compare, right?
Yeah.
I think this match was better than their Backlash match.
Yeah, and I like the callbacks that they showed. Even Bailey herself acknowledging the callbacks where at one point she had the kendo stick set up and Michael Cole was mentioning it, and she just yells at Michael Cole, "Shut up, Michael! They watched me last year. They know."
Oh yes, I caught those times when she's yelling at Cole. I love them, and I love too like that. I've learned from my mistakes, and I taped these before the night started.
Yeah, but like you said, I thought it was an overall good match. Definitely better than the one at Backlash, and I'm trying to remember if they had one even before this year. It might have just been on SmackDown. I don't remember.
Yeah, I feel like they might have had a match on SmackDown that Bailey won that she shouldn't have won.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like before WrestleMania when you're like, did you just pin the number one contender for no reason?
Yeah.
I liked all the hair spots. There was a couple of them that were like innovative, and I'm glad like that we're acknowledging like the chair versus hair kind of standoff. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And like this just becomes one of those matches. I think it's akin to Bailey and Sasha. They're like so excited about these things, they get a little too creative,
Yeah.
where they're just doing things to do them.
Yeah. That final spot though was pretty cool as well. The way they set up the ladder for that KOD spot was pretty nice.
Like pretty brutal. Nice way to finish a match. Could have happened without the cell, but
Yeah, I felt
he was laughing. She's laughing at her, Jack. There's only one way to shut up a bully like that. Hell in a cell.
But so, yeah, decent match. Hoping, as we'll see, similarly with other competitors later down the line, that they get fresh matchups after this.
Mm-hmm.
And I especially think that because as they build towards Money in the Bank, obviously, as a pay-per-view, I think you could say it's had a pretty good track record of being good consistently. So they're going to want to keep that up, especially with the return of fans.
Yep.
And next, we get, again, another rematch. This one, though, has about a month apart. A month apart. Because the last time it happened, I think, was at WrestleMania. I don't think they had a match on SmackDown at all afterwards, but it's Cesaro versus Seth Rollins.
Yeah, fought at WrestleMania. So Seth Rollins jumped Cesaro after his championship match at Backlash. Beat him up to the point where he needed to be stretchered out on SmackDown, and that lasted all of about 2 weeks. One of those things, Jack, that like would have benefited from more time. It's a different time, though. It like now is a different age where you can't let things last for too long. At some point, people just will forget Cesaro. So he had to come back inside of a fortnight in an interesting reveal in Bailey's Ding Dong show.
And much to expect from these two guys. They put on a good match as well. I think I can say the WrestleMania one was better, unlike Bianca Bailey, where this iteration was better than the last.
Agreed. I would also pick the WrestleMania bout over this one.
Yeah, and Rollins gets the roll-up win in this one, and when I first was seeing it and like the results, I was kind of confused. But again, going back to fans coming back, and even looking further into the future with SummerSlam after Money in the Bank, reports are saying they want to treat that essentially as this year's WrestleMania. Even though WrestleMania did have some fans, this is going to be a full crowd, almost like full crowd event. 41,000 people there for SummerSlam. Their plans, apparently they want to do Rollins versus Edge, so they give the win here to Seth, I guess, to get him some momentum for...
That's what I was thinking, he didn't fight at Backlash, lost at WrestleMania, can't think of his track record before that, but he was kind of owed, he was kind of in debt of like a big win. So, a sneaky win, that's all right. Cesaro looks okay, having and I got the sense that maybe he was going too far into the like aggressive approach where he got caught. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he had a face about him later. It was like, oof, I wasn't contemplative or I wasn't careful. He's getting sloppy.
Yeah.
So I'm all right with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like this is the main event or nothing.
Yeah. But so, pretty good match. And speaking of good matches, we move on to yet another match we've seen quite often, which is funny because if you think back to 2016, I'm pretty sure one of the taglines for one of their matches was it was going to be the last time we ever saw these two in a match. But the funny thing about this match is that someone mentioned, I saw someone say this and I thought it was pretty true, that whenever WWE needs a good match on the card, they'll put Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn because not only do they know it will be good, but they know fans will at least enjoy it for what it is.
It's true, and I don't know how many times they fought, but I think it's interesting, too, how different the scenario and the, like, setting is for the two superstars in each time, right? There was the, like, squash match in NXT that was, like, stopped by the ref. There was what pay-per-view was that? Like, Payback or something?
Or
you know what I'm talking about? Battleground, right? That was like a really true blow-off to the feud, the 2016 Never This Again thing you were describing before. And then the WrestleMania thing that, like, somehow managed to be a unique bout compared to their others, given Sami Zayn's recent sort of turn and Owens' recent character development and Logan Paul.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of people saying they were surprised this match didn't get the Hell in the Cell. But that just makes me kind of hopeful. Obviously, because I enjoy the two guys, I would hope it happens in the future. But again, I don't know if it would necessarily would. But if either man ever have a title and they get into a feud at some point where Hell in a Cell is building up, I think they could do it. Especially because, as we talked about, they have history going back even past their time in WWE. So.
Agreed, and like Sasha and Bayley last year, because those guys have their like natural history that they would undoubtedly reference, that would be an incredible match.
Yeah, but even without the cell, they put on a good match as always. Really both good.
Kevin Owens with his unnatural commitment to what's the word? It's so infrequently used. I can't even think of it. Continuity, because he got spiked in the throat 2 weeks in a row. So he's walking in coughing, unable to breathe because of the impact that move had on his throat jack.
Yeah, the commentators definitely played it up because there's one point where he's on the outside and they mentioned how he's just coughing all over their table and stuff, and how he's really like, and they mentioned that whole thing of him not having enough energy throughout the match and stuff. So really good story. Zayn gets a win, another guy, giving him kind of momentum while also, I think Owens is one of those guys who no matter wins or loss, he kind of keeps his momentum going and his credibility going. And same with Sami, honestly.
And so far, this is my match of the night.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. Always enjoy these two whenever they have a match.
I'm always into Sami Zayn winning. He does so infrequently. Yeah. I'm just really excited for him to pick up the win.
Yeah, and there's many ways we can go with all this because Money in the Bank's around the corner. Qualifying matches will start for the Money in the Bank. A lot of ways you can go with a lot of these guys, and there's still also the title scene pictures, like and on SmackDown side the Intercontinental scene. But so, moving on. I don't think we've seen this match, at least in this style, because the last one it was a triple threat including Asuka. They may have done this on Raw and just had it end in disqualifications or roll-ups and stuff, but Raw Women's Champion Rhea Ripley defending against Charlotte Flair.
We haven't seen it since WrestleMania last year when the NXT Championship was on the line.
It's funny you bring that up because each and every single time someone brings up Charlotte's NXT reign from 2020, I always forget it until someone brings it up.
I thought you were going to say something like an angel rips its wings off and cries into them like a pillow.
like when they at last week at In Your House, when they mentioned that Ember could be the third woman to be a 2-time champion, I was like, I know Shayna was one of them. Who's the other? And I was the entire time I was thinking. Then I remembered, oh, that's right, it was Charlotte. I always never forget it because I just remember how much me and you were just like, this might not be good. And then when Ricardo was recording for us for the WrestleMania one, he was like the only person excited about it, and everyone else was like, what is wrong with you?
So this match, Jack, is when I definitely started to wane in my attention and begun to type away on a little Google Doc I'm excited to share with you later.
Yeah, I felt similarly, especially because it's like the story of this match could have been so much better, and you honestly could have given them the sell had it been better, because to me, the one thing you could play off with this match that would have definitely given it the Hell in a Cell ranking better than like maybe Bianca and Bayley was build off of last year, build off of real.
I 100% agree with you, Jack. It would require this company to acknowledge Charlotte in the light that we hold her to, but they don't, and that's what's frustrating. So we don't get Rhea frustrated with Charlotte, and I wish she comes out and says, I'm sick of Charlotte, because you know what I mean? We're not allowed to be sick of Charlotte. She's the queen of wrestling, right? She's God's gift to wrestling. But I want Rhea to come out going, I'm sick of her. I want to get rid of her. I'm going to use a cell to get rid of her. But no, this is a dumb Sting baby face who didn't pin her. She should have pinned her. She should have threw Asuka across the Thunderdome and then grabbed Charlotte and go, no, I'm pinning you because I know what you're going to do if I don't. You're going to go, I should get another match.
And they literally showed that in the video package of Charlotte telling Adam Pearce, I wasn't pinned, so I didn't lose. And it was like, that's the build-up for this match is I wasn't pinned, so I didn't lose.
At least she was pinned in this match, right, Jack? Like the Anakin Skywalker Padme meme. Have you seen those? Where Padme goes, well, at least Charlotte was pinned, right? And then Anakin's face. But Charlotte was pinned, right? Unbelievable.
Literally, their WrestleMania Backlash match was an image of the In Your House match last year, except for the fact that, it wasn't someone else winning, but it was the fact that Charlotte was not involved in the finish, at least like the finish being who took the pin. And so now we're getting to this point. It's like, as you mentioned, we're not allowed to hate Charlotte, we're not allowed to dislike Charlotte's character and stuff. And it just doesn't make sense. It's like, I don't get how, during his most hated times, John Cena was able to acknowledge how much the fans didn't like his push. At points, Roman Reigns was allowed to acknowledge how much the fans weren't liking him and stuff. But yet, Charlotte's the one that can't be acknowledged as the fans being sick and tired of.
It's weird because as far as I can tell, Jack, she is a heel, but she's just this really obnoxiously protected heel. Yeah. I'm like, she's never allowed to look dumb. Like, she's never allowed to cower. She's never allowed to have gotten the best of. She's
the heel version of Super Cena era. Well, I only say that because during that era, as much as I love John Cena, whenever he would take a loss, it wasn't really treated seriously, and they wouldn't let John acknowledge, that look at this loss.
You know how else it compares to Super Cena? That man got championship match after championship match after championship match for no explicable reason.
Yeah, and so very much you see the same here, except, Charlotte being heel rather than face. She's protected. Whenever she takes a loss, there's some type of excuse and it doesn't really add to the building of her character. And you see that here tonight where, it's a back and forth match, and instead of having it have a definitive finish, Rhea uses the covering of the announce table, hits Charlotte with it, and it's a disqualification on Rhea.
Apparently.
Yeah, that's the one thing that threw me off, because I was like, I've seen people use that cover multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
I think even Brock Lesnar had used it. Like, I think he used it in one of his matches, like 2019ish. I think it might have been in the Mysterio match at Survivor Series 2019. But it's like,
yeah,
it's very similar to other matches where they're constantly changing the rules to fit their narrative that they're trying to tell.
And the narrative they're trying to tell is that Rhea Ripley is learning how to be crafty like Flair. Because we saw at the end Charlotte not being necessarily disappointed in the result of the match, but rather a little proud of what she'd witnessed. She's like, you're learning. It was real awkward, the exchange that they shared at the end of the match. And I don't know. I just don't know, Jack. It's frustrating. I thought, how do I resemble the daughter of the dirtiest player of the game? She doesn't have to live in Flair's shadow, Jack. Flair, her father, Ric Flair, 16-time champion. She doesn't need him, Jack. She doesn't need to rest on the laurels of her longtime champion Hall of Fame father. 2-time Hall of Fame father, Jack. Why do you keep bringing him up? She's Charlotte Flair. I know how to resemble that fighting style. I'll tap her with the cover of the announced death, just like Flair and Harley Race back in the day. Maddening. Absolutely maddening.
I don't know. Charlotte's booking is just so weird at times. And it's crazy to think that back when she was taking time off and she had all those months off, there was like this hope that her time off would allow them to figure out what character to go with her and stuff, and it just all.
I kind of low key kind of would wish Andrade would tell her, "Babe, this is garbage." Like, you know what I mean? I want somebody to tell her this is the absolute worst, and this should stop really soon. Flair will never tell her. McMahon will never tell her. Nobody in the production team will ever tell her. Sonya Deville will come out later in a book or in a podcast interview and say, "Oh yeah, it was always garbage and I knew it," but she won't tell her.
But so moving on to our main event. It's the main event. We hope to get a definitive finish, right?
Right. And I'd be remiss, Jack, if I didn't say that we have skipped the match.
Oh, I totally forgot, because I totally forgot to write down notes for it. I know.
It was enthralling. This was the most eventful part of the evening. And it was the match we'd never seen before. It was Alexa Bliss versus Shayna Baszler.
So, how did you feel about it? I saw a lot of mixed reviews about it.
Mixed implies that there were folks that enjoyed it. I did not. I think it promised a lot, and I didn't enjoy it. I wanted to look forward to it. This was the only reason I tuned in. And it did not live up to even my modest of expectations. And you know what I kind of thought of? If you needed an analogy, Alexa Bliss's current ring entrance theme is it's unlistenable. Mm. And I think that her character and the direction that they've gone is like that song. It's complete garbage, right? It's complete mix, and it's supposed to I'm throwing you off. You're unsettled. Doesn't it make you feel uncomfortable? It's unbearable. And you think of the Fiend. You think of the character, the aura that he portrayed, and that song at least had rhythm, and it had structure. Like the beast, it these rules to abide by. But this Alexa Bliss thing is just throwing just everything at the wall. Not even noticing what sticks, he just throws something else at it.
Yeah. And it's like they're making the same mistakes that they made with The Fiend when he first arrived, you know, where similar to The Fiend when he first arrived, I mean, at least when The Fiend first arrived, they kind of gave the sense, but then they started going off the rails with it where we don't really know what the motive is of Alexa Bliss. You know, like when The Fiend first was introduced and he went after Balor and they kind of played off the history, we were like, okay, so is this Fiend this character that wants to get revenge on those that wronged him? But as I mentioned, then they started going off the road where they were like, well, the fans like him, let's put him in the title scene, when it was like, a lot of people will say the title scene shouldn't be something for The Fiend. Because then when he's having those matches, whether as champion or in the title scene, it's not working out well when he's no-selling, when he's just dominating, and like that's going to get the fans to turn on him. I saw someone say that the best moment like The Fiend had was, aside from the Firefly Funhouse, was that strap match against Bryan at the Rumble, because it allowed to show The Fiend taking damage, taking offense and stuff, but still being a powerhouse, like an old school powerhouse in that form. And you're kind of seeing the same with Alexa, where it's like they don't have a direction for her, they don't have a motive for her character. And as we kind of saw in this match, it was like it looked like she was selling at the start, but it was like it just kind of kept showing that Baszler wasn't doing damage. And I'm not gonna lie, I get it's the wrestling world and stuff, but it kind of rubbed me the wrong way to think that one of the most legit women's fighters on your roster is apparently not doing damage to Alexa Bliss just because of this I don't even know how to describe the character, but you know.
Yeah, and like, you know, it's another one of those things too where there's too much time for us to think, well, if she has these powers, why doesn't she use them more often? And the only time we really saw her use powers per se was taking control of Nia Jax so that she can slap Reginald on the outside. It actually had no bearing on the match at all. And you go, I kind of wish it had bearing on the match. It would have made me care more. And this all started over Lily or something like that, right? And Lily is nowhere to be seen. You know, it's again, like we talked about at the beginning, waiting for crowds. Like, this all would have probably played better if there was a crowd. I think we wouldn't have gotten to this point. They would have already telegraphed, oh, this is awful. We definitely don't like this, and they would have had to change something. Because they don't have a live audience. They're going with their plan, and they don't have any reason to think it's not working.
Yeah, and the one thing I saw when going back to the whole thing of their treading water, and the one thing that I saw that I totally agree with was someone said, you know, whatever WWE is doing now, they probably know themselves, but you know, it's not going to fly when the fans return, because as we've seen a couple times in the past, fans can take over the show. You know, they'll take over the show as much as they want. And so, like you said,
there's no turning those screens off.
Yeah.
They were booing the Fiend at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Somebody surely thought, oh, they're booing Alexa Bliss, or they're booing because they don't like that their fan favorite was beaten or something.
Yeah, you know, as we saw at WrestleMania, there was a lot of surprises with who was being cheered, who was being booed. That's going to be a main factor when they return to live television. Or not live television, but return with live fans. It's like, those fans are going to let you know whether they like something or not. And I
said this about The Fiend. I'll say it again here. You know, WWE's listening to your podcast too, Jack. I'm sure they look at themselves up for any mentions. There's Rule 34 podcast. Let's see what they have to say. I'm going to say it again. There was a clearer division between Bray Wyatt and The Fiend. The Firefly Funhouse guy with the sweater and The Fiend. Alexa Bliss is the same person on the Alexa's Playground segments and in the ring. There's almost no difference. She's wearing the same thing. She's wearing the same dark makeup. And she's the same person. I wish there was a clear divide between the two, because it's just like I like Bray Wyatt referencing the Fiend as a third, like in third person. He's a different person. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going on here. The one other person that like there's some hope for this story to kind of be grounded in is Lily, the doll, and we've not done anything with it except for a couple of like jump scares that are easy to produce. But where are we going? Where are we going, WWE? Where are we going? Because Jack and I are gonna subscribe to Fight TV, and we ain't coming with you.
Yeah, and the one thing I saw people say, again, going back to my thing of giving it a motive, if they had gone, the route that people wanted to go with the Fiend, if it was going to be like one of those, like I saw someone say, like the perfect startup rivalry for this Alexa Bliss change would have been with Nikki Cross, her partner for more than like a year or two after finally splitting. That could have been a perfect startup feud for this character, but I don't know.
Her character probably really needs the Fiend too, and they're holding him back until the world opens up again.
Yeah. But, so...
How much time we got?
We have about 8 minutes.
To talk about the main event, Hell in the Cell. Drew McIntyre challenges for Bobby Lashley's WWE Championship. If he loses, Jack, he can never challenge for the championship again, so long as Bobby Lashley holds the title.
Mm-hmm. So, this match gets Hell in a Cell. I'm trying to remember if this was another one of those where they just announced it like the week before the event happened or not, but
poor Drew, he's been in 2 Hell in a Cell matches inside of a year.
Yeah.
He was one in October. That's like 8 months ago? Goodness gracious.
And, playing off that, I like the story that they kind of told with Drew, with the fact that he's more experienced from last year. Kind of like Bayley was playing up. Drew. No, this is now no longer his first time being in the cell. He's more experienced from his previous match.
I also heard the announcers play up that for people like Rey Mysterio, Bianca Belair, and Bobby Lashley, they were all entering the cell for the first time, and they were at a disadvantage. And I thought, well, that's actually incredible. These many new superstars get that kind of Hell in the Cell experience.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's something you can say, like, that at least they're trying to, like, be fresh with and stuff and not giving the same thing, rotating and allowing certain guys like, as we mentioned, Ray, Bianca, and Bobby to get this experience.
Yep. We're getting hit with those fresh moves, Jack, like putting the table on the cage wall, making a right triangle, or smashing a guy into the bottom half of the stairs. Fresh as fresh can be. Never seen those moves before.
And definitely fresh with the matchup of Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley for with
MVP on the outside.
Yeah.
Ooh, that rascal giving Bobby Lashley his cane through the holes of the cage. Wily.
The one thing I'll give them, and as we mentioned, this was our complaint with Charlotte, the stipulation is the WWE acknowledging the fact that the fans have been slowly getting tired of Drew being in the title picture.
And that's allowed to be done through Bobby Lashley and MVP, who say, hey, we're sick of this, we're sick of you, and we're putting an end to it.
Yeah, And overall, I don't know, I guess compared to the Bayley-Bianca one, if you're comparing it, I think they used the cell the best. Like,
agreed. Yeah, between Bianca and Bayley, yeah, I would agree this one was the better use of the cell for sure.
Yeah. They had a lot of different spots where they were using that cage, using the different weapons in coordination with the cage. I like how the kendo stick jail cell has become like a spot within like the past few Hell in a Cells where they'll have someone get trapped in the corner because there's a kendo stick blocking them. They use that kendo stick as like a foundation for like something else resting on top of it. It always surprises me because you would think with the Hell in a Cell being a yearly pay-per-view that they bring out yearly, you would think they would slowly start losing different, like, innovations and new, essentially, like, ways of utilizing the cell and the weapons in it. But, like, they still find a way too, and, I think that's something they'd benefit from, is taking Hell in a Cell away as a yearly thing. I know I've kind of mentioned that in the past, where it's like, especially last year when we had 3, it was like, I think they would benefit a lot more if this thing was brought out on special occasions and on different pay-per-views rather than just, before this, it's October, throw Hell in a Cell in there.
Nothing more special than Monday Night Raw, right, Jack? My favorite spot, and one that absolutely needs the cell, is when they bump the ref, they open the door to replace the ref and tend to him, and MVP sneaks in. I always liked the creative ways that somebody gets in. We've seen it where, like, Brock Lesnar, who, by the way, does not appear in this match. Remember, he ripped the door right off the cell? Or he kicked it in. Or Kane ripping it off. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Whatever they found a way to spill out or get in, it just creates a more exciting story. So MVP's in the ring. Drew McIntyre's got Bobby Lashley down for the 3. 1, 2, pulls the ref. Goodness gracious. And just when he thinks he's sly and he's done his client, the best, he turns around to find they lock the door behind him. That was a real good spot.
That part actually made me laugh because of the fact that he's just slowly backing away. He's like, all right, I did what I needed to do for my guy. I'm fine. And then he turns around, sees the ref lock the door, and he's just looking at him like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? And then he turns around and Drew immediately starts laying it in on him.
So how much time we got now, Jack?
About 2 minutes.
Well, we're going to wrap it up with a big move from Drew McIntyre. 1, 2, 3. And he wins the WWE Championship, right?
Nope.
No. Well, Bobby Lashley obviously hit him with a big move. 1, 2, 3. He retains his championship, right?
Nope.
God, this company, what's the matter with him? How does he win?
Drew tries to go for the Claymore, standing in the corner. MVP grabs the ankle, distracts him enough, gets rolled up, and that's how this Hell in a Cell match ends.
Goodness gracious, that's how this podcast is going to end. On a fart, just like Hell in a Cell 2021.
Yeah, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, this. I don't know about you, but I felt like this was Lashley and McIntyre's best match to date. Mm-hmm. It was the best one, but it was like their Backlash one last year, where it was being such a good match, and then they had that like distraction finish that just diminishes.
I'd actually give the WrestleMania one the sort of best title, with the winner with the Hurt Lock.
Yeah,
but roll up. Drew McIntyre pulled a Cesaro, got rolled up. Lasai.
All right, sir. Well, with about a minute left, we'll close out here. Do you want to do another episode? Because I know you said...
I want to do another episode because I got something fun to share with you.
Yeah, I got a couple things to say, as well about the Drew Lashley match. But, about 40 seconds, we'll close it out here. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you in the next episode, where we got a bunch of extra stuff to discuss that pertains to the show, but also, is our own type of thoughts. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. See you there.
Next episode.